That's what we're covering in these first 3 lessons of Battle of Somme. In this lesson, we're already on to E. We're into the 3rd bar here. I've got pictures for you marking where each lesson starts and ends in the workshop. You can click on that link below, but here we're in the 3rd bar. We're on an E. So our ring finger's up on the top hand, bottom hand, pinky's up, and we're getting to that E from a D. So we ended off that lesson 1. That was lesson 1. You could always go back and review. We ended on the D, pinky fingers down, 3 fingers are up on the bottom hand, which is normally our right hand, top hand is our left hand, thumb is on the thumb hole on the top hand. We're on our D, we're going up to E, and that's a tricky transition, but what's written is a G grace note. So if you're comfortable with G grace notes, we're going to get there with a G grace note. So that G grace note finger has to lift, you do the transition, and then that grace note finger comes back down. If that's a bit much, you could always skip that grace note and just do the transition. So let me play for you starting from that D that we ended on in lesson 1. I'll play for you what we're going to break down here in lesson 2. So it sounds like a lot there, but we're going to walk through it step by step. So we've already done our first transition, D to E. So what's going on there? We've gotten to the E. That E's a little bit of a longer note compared to the next note. Our next note, we're dropping right back to the D, but we're not staying on that D very long before we drop down to low G. So without grace notes, this is what we're doing. We're doing D to E, back to D, only for a short time, then low G. So we're on the E, we go to D, that same transition, just the reverse of what we just did. And then when we drop down to low G, we just drop all the fingers of the bottom hand come down. All the fingers and the thumb are all on their holes. That's our low G. So starting on the D. So now let's add in those grace notes. We already talked about that first one. That's the second grace note. Comes from the D, which we're not on very long, down to low G, and we're going to do an E grace note. If you're into grace notes, if you're into that sort of thing, you can do an E grace note. So it's the ring finger of the top hand has to lift. You drop down to low G with the bottom hand, and then that ring finger comes down. And that can be worth slowing down and practicing because, you know, a lot of tunes you might be getting comfortable with the G grace note, but that E grace note finger might not be woken up yet. It can take a while to wake up that finger as well. There's the slow motion version. And because that D is so short, let's back it up one more note and start from the E. So we're not hanging around on that D too long. So let's just play what we got so far, and then I'll add in the rest of this phrase that we're working on in lesson 2. That's what we got so far. That next little bit is a lot easier, and I'll play lesson 1 and 2 together, and then we'll work on that last little bit. So we've already got down to that low G. From there we're going from low G up to B, and if you're not doing grace notes, you can just do that transition by lifting up the bottom 2 fingers. If you are doing grace notes, you can get there with a G grace note, top finger of the top hand. That grace note finger has to lift, you do the transition, then it comes back down. What's written in the sheet music, which again is in the workshop link below, is a doubling. So we get there with the G grace note. Immediately after, we do a second grace note with our D grace note, top finger of the bottom hand. There's the slow motion version, so we have that second grace note, top finger of the bottom hand. So here's what we got so far for lesson 2. And the last little bit. So this last little bit, even if you're not doing much for embellishments, this could be one that you can sneak in. The complete easiest option is just to go from B down to low A by dropping the ring finger. So sure, that's an option, but a little bit tougher, but not too tough, and it sounds pretty cool, is to drop down both fingers to that low G and then bring up the pinky. And that's what's actually written. So if you can do that, great. Your fingers might not find that low G right off the bat, but with some repetition, they will. You got this. Just keep at it, because that's a cool embellishment to and it comes up in a lot of tunes. So again, here's what we got in lesson 2, nice and slow. Here's lesson 1, 2, and I'll tack on 3, which we'll tackle in, next lesson. I'll tackle all 3 together, tack them on together, and you can join me in that workshop below. So I'll see you in lesson 3.